LES Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. Day number 16 of the offensive coordinator search and week number 3 here of the Eagles off season. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, my friend?
Woo, 16 days. Yeah, let's keep it going. Davis Webb, Sean Mannion. That excites some people. I think people will get excited about Davis Webb. I don't know why, but I think that.
Well, why don't you think you know, no excitement there for you, Joe?
Well, I'm always, not that it's anything bad, just he's a well-known name and he's gotten head coaching interviews.
Yeah.
But, I'm saying from a legitimate standpoint, like how much do people know about him, but they'll get excited. That's all I mean. Not that it's a bad thing.
That's fair.
But from the perspective of, I think you've already seen Denver fired their offensive coordinator. I think they're setting up he's going to get promoted. They understood how much interest he had. So I wouldn't get too hyped about it from that standpoint because he might still get the Raiders job, and B, if not, he'll probably go back to the Broncos as the OC, as they've already, set that up. So I think that's a unlikely scenario, but it's a big name added to the list, and we'll see if he interviews. But a lot of other teams, Ravens, Giants as well, already, as I mentioned, still in the head coaching equation with the Raiders, and a couple of their seemingly finalists bowed out. Brian Daboll was in the equation there, and obviously he's going to Tennessee. So a lot of stuff going on, but
that was a big one there, John. Daboll coming off the board. I mean, I know we kind of thought he was going there, but we did have some conflicting reports that maybe
there was. You got to give Diana Rossini. She's been the best on this. That I know Eagles fans hate to give her credit, but she had that locked down early. Now, after the fact, I was told yesterday, because there were conflicting reports. I think Jeremy Fowler said, "I'm not so." Basically, wasn't. He said, "I'm not so sure Daboll's out of the mix in Philadelphia." I was told yesterday. He told them during his interview. Yeah, he was. Obviously, he was hoping to get a head coaching job with Buffalo was the main goal with him. But if not, he was going to take the Tennessee job. And he's grown very close to Robert Saleh, maybe from going through the hell of being head coaches in New York. I don't know. Have that in common. And evidently, when he interviewed with the Eagles, he told the Eagles that. So I don't know where the back and forth hedging came from, but was also told the Eagles had not flat out not offered anybody the job. So
wow,
for all
16 days later, not a single offer out there.
Not one. No, they have not. Now, again, everything's semantics. They would have offered Mike McDaniel the job. They would have offered Brian Daboll the job. They never got to that point. So everything's semantics. But with all these other guys, you're like, why is Charlie Weiss Jr. withdrawing? Why? As I tried to explain, when you withdraw, that's an indication you're not getting the job. That's not you're turning down an offer. And then the implication that interviews are offers, which way too many fans have, is just nuts. But on the one hand, so you could spin that, I guess, if you're an Eagles fan, is good. On the other hand, what's the holdup? You and I were talking before we got on the air. I kind of have respect for the Eagles. Like everybody does it the same way. I never liked that. I hate groupthink more than anything else. I hate groupthink. So I like being different. And different isn't necessarily good. It could be good. It could be bad. It could be the same.
Groupthink is no good if your different thinking is the right way to think differently. If it's not, and you're just being dumb.
Yeah, exactly. It could be even worse. And from the standpoint, what's happening here, and is what, again, their lack of transparency, which I think hurts them more than helps. And I know they don't believe me, but whatever. It's up to them. It's their right. Um, you have all these people who think they're getting turned down left and right by these, I don't want to say middling candidates, but not high profile candidates, whatever word you want to use. Um, and they look at it as just a fact finding mission, basically, not only for the next offensive coordinator, but to be ahead of the trends in the NFL, try to talk to as many smart people as possible. Jeffrey Lurie's talked about this in the past when it's had coaching searches. Whenever there's a major search in Philadelphia, so part of that is good. But because of the way everybody else does things, and they have more clear, defined ways of going about it, guys get antsy and they start taking on ramps. So some of off ramps, excuse me. So some of these guys who've taken other jobs or withdrawn potentially could have still been in the mix, but they're getting antsy and they go, well, let's take Bobby Slowick. Well, he gets the Miami offensive coordinator job. He gets that offer and he's like, well, maybe he wants to come in Philadelphia, but he doesn't have an offer there. So he takes the off ramp. Charlie Weiss is, probably, as I said, that's more of the Eagles probably not being offering the job and not wanting to offer it. Declan Doyle, I feel the same way. But guys start to take the off ramp when they get offers. Like Gaffigan took the off ramp. So that's the risk of this extended sort of search when everybody else acts with more expediency. That's
So how much do you think that teams don't, or that some of these guys actually don't want this job? Do you think most of that narrative is incorrect, or do you think,
I think other than two guys for different reasons, it's completely incorrect. Completely.
So other than
I think every other
the hot names who had options, you think everybody else would have taken the job if it were offered and all those?
Well, I don't know. I'm not saying that. I'm saying nobody. But you never know. Again, the toughest part, similar with the draft, I always say, the toughest part isn't the film or what they do on the field. The toughest part is the off the field stuff. Like, we don't have any information with that. Same thing here. Like, I don't know where somebody's wife wants to live. I don't like, that's real shit that people don't think about. So I'm sure, because they've talked to so many people, I'm sure there's some of them who are just using it for their own purposes, getting their names out there, saying, let me go through the interview process, let me learn from it, and maybe are looking in other directions because of a million different reasons. But the idea that people are turning down the Philadelphia, completely off base, completely.
Do you feel like we're starting to use this whole fan thing as a little bit of an excuse? I'm not saying it's not a factor, but it's the first time I've ever heard, all right, this big narrative that the fan base is a reason that nobody wants this job.
Well, I don't think it's a big narrative, but again, I don't pay a lot of attention to others. But I
don't know if it feels like that's becoming a narrative. I might be wrong, but it feels like that's becoming a big thing. Oh, it's tough to coach in Philly, and I'm like, all right,
well, it is, but I don't think that's new.
Not, but there's 32 jobs.
I don't think that's new at all, because again, I think that's just something that most people don't think about, the real world stuff, that the stuff I'm talking, not have to be the fan base, not have to be the pack. Could be as simple as, oh, you know what? I got young kids. That's a really shitty school system or whatever. It could be a million different things. That's the information that we never have with different candidates. But but the idea that it's hard to coach in Philadelphia is not new. I think
it just feels like coaching in the NFL, period, end of sentence, is a tough thing to do. It's a tough spot. It's a hard job. It's a hard business.
Yeah,
it's
but
a lot
it's
of
not
pressure.
even. You're
It's
right.
Not
You're
yeah,
right, but I think you'd be being disingenuous by not saying there's scales to it. And this is one of the more difficult parts on the scale. But that's not new.
If I asked you to find the problem, then in this search, is there a problem? Do you think it's all good? Like I don't know. I mean, as a reporter, how do you feel about?
Well, I think one of the things I've always
say it's a it doesn't look good. I mean, clearly you think to some extent we are because of how you explained that only two people really were who they wanted, which makes sense. But how do you view it overall from a whole now? 15 or 6, what are we, 16 days in? Yeah, 15, 16, who knows? Losing track.
Well, what I said yesterday was, with the part that is most troubling to me is that typically the Eagles are very good with contingencies. And they didn't seem, at least from the outside looking in, I'll likely get more information when they actually hire the guy, but from the outside looking in, it looked like their contingencies weren't set up as well as they normally are. Like, I think they put all their eggs in 2 baskets and then we're left scrambling a little bit, but that's just speculation. There seems to be no clearly defined plan. And as you see, names Sean Mannion popping up out of nowhere, Davis Webb, not out of nowhere. I mean, he's high profile, but and he's, he's not going to get a head coaching job. But again, Denver, you're up against it. Denver's already blown out the guy because they're obviously trying to keep him. Why do you think they fired the offensive coordinator?
That was interesting, right? You go to the NFC or the AFC championship.
Well, yeah, that's the exact reason. So people, why are you firing your offense after the year they had? Why are you firing your offensive court? Well, they made the tough decision. That can't be a good look.
We talked about some of the reasons it's not a good look in Philly to take this job. If I make it to the AFC Championship game with Bo Nix, I'm going to get blown out of here. That was pretty crazy, but I guess I get it if they're trying to get the.
Well, they're making that tough decision. They'd rather have Davis Webb than Joe Lombardi. That's what they're saying.
You think Joe Lombardi could become a candidate for the Eagles?
Yeah, I don't see why not. He's out there. The guy from the Jets too. I think you might see his name pop up again. Yeah, I mean they're going to keep going, similar to what they did until they find somebody they like. Now it's interesting that Tanner Engstrand, which is, I wouldn't be surprised if you hear his name pop up, but Sean Mannion, who's 2 years off the field as a longtime backup quarterback in the league, is getting a second interview. He had a Zoom interview and he's going to be get an in-person interview. So it's weird. This thing is all over the place. It doesn't look organized, and it doesn't seem organized, and that's very un-Eagles like. And maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's my biggest concern. But I certainly don't share the everybody's turning down the Eagles. I think that's ludicrous. Nobody's been offered the job. Very confident in that. Now, again, there's context to that as well, because 2 guys would have been offered the job, I believe.
Yeah, reminder, I think Kevin Petullo still works for the organization. All right, John, what's the update then on the interviews? I'm trying to keep track of them all. We got Davis Webb has interviewed. We got
No, he hasn't interviewed. They requested permission to interview him.
Okay,
he has not interviewed. So did the Giants. So did the Ravens. Mannion's coming in for a second interview. I do not know if it's taken place yet. but he will be in this week. So yeah, so he's part of the equation, and I wouldn't be surprised if that there's more names as well. As I said, Tanner Angstrand got fired by the Jets yesterday. Weird timing, but the Jets are a freaking disaster area. But he's got a history with Detroit, how he got that job, so he might be of interest. And talk about experience. If Lombardi has an interest, I mean,
Yeah,
he's been with Sean Payton a long time. So I might take advantage of that situation. And he's got a good history. I wouldn't mind talking. You talk about experience. In theory, that's what they wanted because things went wrong with Kevin Patullo. But all of a sudden, we got Sean Mannion. we got all these inexperienced guys. Guys are out of it, like Declan Doyle and Charlie Weiss Jr. with their inexperience. Joe Lombardi would offer some experience aspect of it. I'd still hire Matt Nagy. I'm on the Matt Nagy train.
I'm good with Jim Bob Cooter at this point. I don't know what the heck is going on with this whole search, but all right, we will figure out where we are or what's coming next. This Eagles team, John. Now Wednesday. By the way, you're on a little delay, so just give it a second after I'm done finishing. Are they going to have an offensive coordinator by Friday, John? I thought for sure coming into the week. All right, we're going to have a breaking news segment this week. I got everything already ready. Like, I'm ready to go if we have a breaking news segment. Now I'm wondering if it might not come this week.
Yeah, I thought it would come this week. I'm not as confident as they keep adding names. But boy, how long are you going to push this thing? I can't imagine. The Senior Bowl already started, so the practices. Clint Hurts down there, Jamal Singleton, a couple of other Eagles support staff are down there at the Senior Bowl. You would think you'd want them in place before the Super Bowl. And again, as more guys take off ramps, guys are going to get offers. You might end up settling down the road. So I like that the Eagles are different, but that different doesn't mean good necessarily. I don't like groupthink. I like that they do things differently, but I don't think this looks organized. And again, their lack of, maybe it's very organized, but their lack of transparency leads me down that road.
John, one piece of news I got to get to before we get to Mike Gill coming up in a second here. Bill Belichick is officially not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now, I don't profess to know it all, and I don't profess to be the football expert. That, to me, seems absolutely insane. If that guy's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, the guy's one of probably the most successful coach in NFL history, or one of the most successful coaches in NFL history. He does not get the votes needed to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Comes across as not a good look for that room voting for them. It does not come across as a good look to me. It comes across as disgruntled writers who wanted to, teach Bill a lesson of some sorts. I can't wrap my head around this one, John, as a football fan. What do you make of the Bill Belichick news?
Well, it's not official, number one. I mean, ESPN reported it. I'm sure it's true, but I just want to clarify that it's not official. It does whiff of sort of it very baseball. We got Mike coming up. Very baseball like, very moral high ground type of stuff.
Yeah.
Gatekeeper type of stuff, score settling type of stuff. But I'd be, most of the writers that I know who are Hall of Fame voters, many of them who've been on this show in the past, voted for him. I saw them go public. I haven't seen anybody yet go public that say, "Yeah, I'm one of the idiots who didn't vote for him."
I mean,
Now,
I'm
there's
happy to use that word because idiots is what it is.
now Bill Polian supposedly from the ESPN report was the one who was sort of navigating this and saying he should at least pay a year penance for Spygate and all that crap. But he denied that with Matt Verderame, who's also been on this show. So we have to see what transpired. But yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, if anybody is a first ballot Hall of Famer, it's Bill Belichick, certainly in the coaching profession. And anybody who didn't vote for him should be ashamed of themselves.
Right,
if they're
happy,
and again, at least baseball has to lean on. What's that?
I said I'm happy we're on the same page. I mean, they're idiots, anybody who didn't vote for him, but
yeah, evidently I'm on a lag. I apologize for that. But from the standpoint, and Mike's coming on, baseball has a clause, basically a morals clause. They actually have that, so they can lean on that. They don't have that in football. So these it's even worse from my perspective because they're going outside the realm of what they're supposed to do. And nobody can make an argument that this guy doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame on merit. So it is score settling. It is gatekeeping. And it's insane. And everybody who voted against him, I hate to go down that route because everybody deserves their opinion. But when there's slam dunks and you go down a different route, you're either saying, look at me, or you're not doing your job. And you shouldn't have that vote.
There's opinion and there is fact. All right. Fact is Bill Belichick is a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's insane by the committee. Jason Cole is supposed to be on the National Football Show today with Big Sills. I hope he is. It's either today or tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Obviously, he's probably not going to disclose that much. I don't know how much he knows, but he will give some insight on it as a Hall of Fame voter. Let's go to Mike Gill, set to join us right here on Birds 365. Mike joins us now. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him at 97.3 ESPN down the shore, 97.5 The Fanatic. Mike looking dapper. What did you get, a fresh cut yesterday, Mike? Hair's looking good, brother.
Get ready for the Super Bowl. I'm leaving Tuesday. Got to look good, right?
Yes, sir. Good stuff, Mike. What do you make of, man? It's day number, what are we in, 16 here for the Eagles offensive coordinator search, Mike? Where's your head at on this Eagles OC search?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, I don't think it matters. I mean, is there a guy they missed out on that you're like, damn it? Maybe if you were in the Mike McDaniel camp, then okay, I can agree to say, damn, they missed out on him. Were you like really that hardcore for Brian Daboll? Okay. But other than those two guys who were the highest profile based on their most recent jobs, Matt Nagy was 34-31 as a head coach. He had Mitch Trubisky, got them to 12 wins, took them to the playoffs, was the coach of the year. And yet people think Brian Daboll was far superior as a candidate who was 20-40-1 as a head coach and basically was awful with the Giants. I know he had quarterback issues, but Nagy at least was 500 with Mitch Trubisky. I don't know why people are like, Nagy. Like, it seems that Nagy has turned into the boring guy, and the most recent head coach is the good guy. I don't understand that line of thinking here. Like, I feel like if you ended up with Nagy, people are going to be like, womp, womp. And yet, the last time Andy Reid endorsed a guy, nobody else wanted him. The Eagles hired him, and guess what? You won the Super Bowl. So for God's sakes, just let him, I get it. The Eagles have promoted within twice, and it has not worked out. But when they have done their due diligence, I think we should give them the benefit of the doubt. It usually works out pretty good. Doug Peterson, nobody won it. They won the Super Bowl. Nick Sirianni, no one ever heard of. It's turned out pretty good whether you like Nick or not. So let them take their time and just kind of figure this one out. I think they'll end up getting a guy because when they hire from the outside, they usually hit a home run. You know, there was a guy named Andy Reid that no one ever heard of in their life. He turned out to be pretty good. They generally do a pretty good job when they do their due diligence. So it gives you guys content every day, because if they had this squared up by now, what would you be talking about?
That's true. We'd come up with something. Don't worry.
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff. We'd be talking about the Senior Bowl. We'd be talking.
The funny part is, like, I'm big into the draft. So I'm already kind of geeking out about draft stuff because, quite frankly, if this coordinator thing wasn't here, you're right. They need a lot. I mean, you need a tight end. You need probably another edge rusher if you let Phillips walk. You need another corner. You're probably going to need a safety. You might need another wide receiver. And you probably need to start thinking about drafting someone on that offensive line. So that's at least 5 key spots that you think that could be a possibility at number 23. But I don't want to drive you down that road just quite yet.
No, I'm with you, Mike. I'd rather be talking about personnel because they do have so many questions. I mean, we don't even know if A.J. Brown's going to be back. We don't know if Lane Johnson's going to be back. As you mentioned, they have to start repopulating that offensive line, which they've been trying to do for years, trying to find an heir apparent to Lane Johnson. Jalen Phillips, as you mentioned, a big question. You know, do you have a walk-away number if somebody wants to pay him $25 million? Do you walk away? If so, you got to find an edge rusher. On and on and on and on.
And I know they have Jihad Campbell here, but and by the way, just a little preview, we'll be at the Super Bowl next week, and one of our guests is slated tentatively to be Nakobe Dean. So Nakobe Dean's a free agent. He's probably going to end up walking, and that means Campbell steps right into that job. And I imagine they think they have enough with Trotter as the next guy. So they might not need to restock that, but your linebacking position is going to have a little bit of a different look next year as well.
Yeah, sure. A lot of stuff moving on, and none of it's going to move forward until they make a decision on this offensive coordinator. Now, the one name that was very interesting from a lot of angles is Sean Mannion, because, man, Mike, I mean, you talk about, well, the whole narrative with Kevin Patullo is there's a first-time play caller.
Yeah. It's all these guys, though.
Yeah, a lot of these guys. But Sean Mannion's 2 years off the field.
Well, it almost feels like, John, right? Like all these sports now are trying to find the guy who was the backup catcher and he just got done playing and he's right there to connect with the guys and he still knows them well enough. Like you see this happening a lot, and, you know, like guys that are getting jobs, first-time managers or first-time coaches that are just closely connected to the era that they're playing in. I mean, Tony Romo's getting blasted with good reason, by the way, is because people are like, he's so general. He just makes these general comments. Well, he's so far there. Then people are like, well, he's so far removed from this group of players that he doesn't have enough background on him. And it's like, geez, you know, like meanwhile, you got a guy like J.J. Watt, who's everyone's lauding because he just played and he knows a lot of these guys. And he knows the game, and it feels like there's a better connection. And it feels like that's what's happening at the coaching level as well. It's almost like, hey, let's find that guy who just, you know, he wasn't good enough to play, but he was always the smart guy. Like, we'll get him now. And it's almost like everyone's targeting these younger guys who are just so, like, much more connected to this era of player.
It might work. It might work. I mean, you know, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world when we talk about new ideas and fresh perspectives and everybody seems to want it. Why not bring in a guy who, you know, I remember when he, you know, for those who don't know, Sean Mannion was a 3rd-round pick of the Rams during his first year. Nick Foles was the starter, and then it turned into the Jared Goff era. So he was the backup there. Then he bounced back and he kept going back and forth between Seattle and Minnesota as a 3rd-string quarterback. So he got to work with Sean McVay, got to work with Kevin O'Connell. Now he got to work with Matt LaFleur as a coach. So he's in that sort of realm. There's a lot of good things about him. as you mentioned, backup quarterbacks tend to have a very good feel for offense as a whole. But he hasn't called plays. So from my perspective, Mike, like there's going to be some growing pains if you hire a candidate from that. And this is not the place for growing pains. I mean, we've proven it's not, forget about the fans. I know everybody's on that, but Jeffrey Lurie he does not have the patience to wait for a guy to grow on the job.
Yeah.
So why waste your time?
Right. And you get a guy like Frank Smith, who was an offensive coordinator, but he's not the play caller. He's an interesting guy because offensive line coach background, tight end coach background. So he would seem like he would profile as a guy who would be more of a run game coordinator type of thing. So how does he mesh with Jeff Stoutland? That's why he's an interesting candidate. He's on the McDaniel kind of tree, I guess, if you want to go down that route. Then you've got obviously who did we just talk about? Totally blanked on
Sean Mannion.
Sean Mannion, who literally just got out of playing and is more on the McVay side, Kevin O'Connell side. So you've got guys who are around these often. Declan Doyle, who pulled out of the thing, he wasn't going to get the job. So, but was in Ben Johnson, but he was also with Sean Payton before that. So you have guys who have some interesting backgrounds, but have never called the plays before. And so now people are saying, do I want to take a chance with them, or I'm going to be underwhelmed by the former play caller? Like if Jim Bob Cooter, who has called plays, got the job, I don't know that there's a rush of excitement that Jim Bob Cooter gets the job. Matt Nagy doesn't feel like a guy that is going to excite people. Now, that shouldn't matter one way or the other, but, it is what it is. I don't think if Matt Nagy gets a job, but he certainly has the experience of a play caller, and he was a head coach, so you have that going for you as well. One of the problems last year was Petillo was so bad that people were calling him for to be fired. They didn't have anybody to turn the job over to, really. Like, there was not really an obvious – you could give it to the quarterback coach, but it wasn't like that guy had a lot of experience calling plays either. At least Nagy has been a head coach and has called the plays at the NFL level. So he seems like he would have been the obvious one. The interesting part is, too, Frank Reich never talked to at all. He got a job with the Jets. And it was like, hey, at least it's his offense. He knows Nick. They know each other well. Do you find it bizarre that they never even went down that road?
I don't, but I've talked to them about that. It's kind of a weird dynamic, which they both admitted. To have somebody who was, your boss and your mentor, and then you're his boss. It's just,
isn't that how it happens though? Like the evolution of life is like somebody teaches you, then you learn, and then they get older. Not that Frank's old, but like it kind of flips at one point. I get the dynamic being a little odd, but we've seen like Saleh and Vance.
Yeah, I think in Frank has said on Cilio's show, I think he said he'd come in as an as a consultant, something like that. What he said, yep. Yeah. I think that could work. I don't think the Jets officially hired him yet. I missed that if they did, but I'm sorry. He
interviewed with the Jets, and the Jets removed their current coordinator.
Yeah, they fired their coordinator.
There's a lot of weird wording going on where guys are like accepting jobs, but they're
not signing. That's new.
It's really odd.
Right? Like Mike McDaniel takes the Chargers job, but then he interviews for the Bills job, and it's like, wait a second, you just took this job. Well, this job became available.
And same with Dable yesterday. I mean, the breaking news tweet has a contingency in there, and unless he gets the Raiders job.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
I've never heard of such a thing where these guys are taking jobs on the contingent that I don't get this other job. It's like, wait, what is going on?
That is new. The weird, even at the coordinator, Brian Flores signed an extension because he was out of contract, and they had that wording, if he doesn't get a head coaching job.
Right.
I'm like, it's never happened before. It's new.
Now, listen, Eagles fans, you could have jumped the gun and hired someone and then disappointed if, like, there's a candidate that's, for instance, the Steelers go out and hire what's his name?
Mike McCarthy.
Mike
Mike McCarthy. Like, do you think the Steelers fans are all that excited that they jumped the gun on some of these candidates and hired Mike McCarthy? Probably not. But would that be Matt Nagy? If you hired Matt Nagy, is that the Mike McCarthy hire? Like, hey, like I said, you went from Mike Tomlin, so you'll win 9 or 10 games with a first-round exit, to Mike McCarthy, so you'll win 11 or 12 games with a first-round exit.
I've defended Mike McCarthy for years, more than most, because I do think, to your point, Mike, he's got this reputation of being just a guy, and it's like, I mean, can somebody look at his resume? This guy's got a lot of games.
Wins a lot of games.
Oh my God, he's got. I'm looking it up right now. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 10-win seasons. 11 10-win seasons. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 playoff appearances. I mean, and we're talking about this guy like this guy can't coach.
That's pretty good, man. That's a pretty impressive resume.
Yeah. It's like he is the guy who cleans up, wins a ton of games, but then he lacks attention to detail. So you win a lot of games against bad teams throughout your time, blah, blah, blah. They get to the big games, bad timeouts, bad clock management, undisciplined teams, all those guys. He wins because he has such great talent. Those Cowboys teams were always more talented, but in the end, what bit them was their lack of attention to detail. They were very undisciplined, bad clock management, all that kind of stuff that comes into play. That cost you to not be able to win in the playoffs.
Mike, you gave the Eagles fans some optimism when you came in here. Just that, I thought you had a good point. Every time they have a long interview or a long process like this, they do seem to be successful with hiring coaches. But the optics, Mike, I mean, and not that they matter, but you talked to a lot of people, obviously, on your great show, the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. What are the optics? How bad are they? And does it at least make you question, Mike, is there something bigger there than we think in terms of why people may or may not want to work in the Eagles organization?
Well, I think that answer, we keep getting asked that question on our show, is why? Why don't people want this job? Well, I think you can give 6 different answers.
Right.
What's
the Mike Dill truth is the question.
I just randomly threw out the number 6, and I could probably get to 6. You got a contingent probably who would say Jalen Hurts is not the quarterback for me. I don't think that's far-fetched to think that some of these quarterbacks are like, hey, I have an offense. And some people would say, well, a good coordinator will adjust their offense. Well, that guy might be saying, I don't want to adjust my offense. I can just run my offense with that guy. Right. So I'll take that guy over this guy. So Jalen Hurts is definitely on the list. So put that to rest. It's not like people are saying, Jalen Hurts, MVP, a Super Bowl champion, I want to be there. No, I can go work with Justin Herbert if I want. I can go run my offense here. One. The Jeff Stoutland thing. Some guys might be saying, if he's got to run the coordinator, and I have my guys that I want to bring in, I'm not being disrespectful. I'll go get another job. Like some of these guys have enough gravitas that they can afford to say, I'll go get another job. If Jeff Stoutland's going to run the run game, but I want to bring my run game in, and he doesn't run the same thing I run, that would be a problem. So there's number 2. Number 3, do I get to call the plays? Well, we're seeing some reporting of you get all the autonomy, you get to call whatever the hell you want. Okay, fine. We don't know how those interviews are going. I'll take them at their word, but that's on the list. 4, is A.J. Brown going to be there for me or not? If I'm a coordinator and I come in and I say, hey, I have A.J. Brown, that's one thing. Well, if you say he's not there, okay, well, now I have to change some things up in my head of, is this job what I really thought it was when it looks like a great job if A.J. Brown's not there? Now, I watch the Seattle Seahawks basically have one player run circles around the whole Ram defense. They have nothing else other than Smith and Jigba on that team. And somehow they found a way to give
You don't like Jake Bobo?
Jake Bobo was the next receiver on the list. Somehow they found out a way to get that guy the ball 10 times for 152 yards, and they have no one else on the field to worry about at all. So can I find a guy who could say, Devontae Smith, I can make you get the ball 10 times a game and figure out what we can do, even if A.J. Brown's not there. But the A.J. Brown thing. Then what's going to happen with Lane Johnson? Is he going to be here? What's up with your offensive line? Do you see that as a 1-year speed bump, or do you think that line gets back to where it's been, where we were the number 1 run team in the league? Those are questions that the coach has, on top of the fact that he probably is saying, look, if I come in here and all these questions are unanswered, I could be Kevin Patullo. I could be Brian Johnson. Now, I don't want that guy. I want the guy that says I can be Kellen Moore and I can be Shane Steichen because I have Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, this offensive line. It's like all coaching. The one coach will always say, the guy who was the number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft that failed with you, I'll get the most out of him, bring him over here. And that's what the guy that I'm looking for says. This offense scored 19 points at home in a playoff game. I will be the guy that makes sure that they score at least 24. I don't think that's asking a lot with the talent on this team. So where's that guy? If that guy keeps saying, I don't want this job, he probably wasn't the right guy.
Well, I'll say this, Mike. When you said 6, I thought, wow, 6 is light, man. And you got to 6 pretty easily. And, I think you left a bunch out. And I think the head of this, I'm not even going the fan base and the difficulties and the pressure, because I know a lot of people have gone that way. I think the head of this, the eye of this perfect storm is what you just said at the end, Brian Johnson and Kevin Patullo. In almost every other city, and it's a little bit different for Brian because they did have a bad offense this season. They didn't have a bad offense, or at least under, I shouldn't say bad, it was below average offense. They didn't have a below average offense when Brian Johnson was here. But either way, in both seasons, you have 11 wins in playoff appearances.
Yeah.
In almost every other city, Mike, that is a contract extension.
Yeah.
And you're getting blown out.
I talked about this yesterday.
Guys.
Yeah, I talked about this yesterday on my show, which was, look, you've won the division back-to-back years, first time in 20 seasons. You've won double-digit games every year but the first year that Nick was here, and they made the playoffs that year. They've been to the playoffs 5 straight times. An 11-win wild card exit is a failure here. For the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys, they're throwing parties for winning 11 games and getting to the playoffs, even if they get knocked out in the first round. So the immense amount of expectations are outrageous at times, and there are some coaches that are probably saying, I can't live up to that, or I don't want to even try to live up to that. And to that, you're saying, then you're probably not the right guy for this job, because there is outrageous expectations with good reason. Because if I'm the coach, I'm saying, listen, I want to be there because they have the most talent. And for 25 years, they have done nothing but win. Yes, when was the last time the Eagles had a season where they were completely irrelevant? There might have been years where they were not where they were and yet still made the playoffs. But when was there one season that they were absolutely...
Well, there was a couple. I mean, Doug's last season went off the rails.
Doug's last season was a bad one. So you're going back to 2020. So that's 6 years ago. Before that, even Chip's last year, they hung in there pretty much that last Washington game when they got blasted, and that pretty much did it for him. There were some years, like I said, they weren't very good. Yeah,
there's some down years, but not many. Not many.
Correct.
Completely.
The year before that was 2012, Andy's last year, where they won 4 games, was really the last time that they were just awfully bad. You're talking about in 25 years, we can think of like 3 seasons. So if you come here, you're getting 100% of the front office support of getting you stuff that you need. You're never going in there saying, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, I don't have a left tackle, or I don't have 2 offensive linemen that can actually – you've got 5 guys that are all paid to block at the highest level. You've got the best running back in – I don't know if Saquon's at that level right now, but you've got one of the top 5 running backs in the league. You've got 2 receivers. Like, they give you everything you should need to succeed. That's all you're asking for as an employee. Are you giving me the necessary tools to succeed? If you guys go on here.
All right. Let me play devil's advocate here. At Mike Gill Show, make sure you follow Mike on the X platform, YouTube as well, at Mike Gill Show 97.3, down the shore 97.5 in Philadelphia. You every tool, I'm going to push back on that. Yeah, we think of it, but not patience, not ability to grow in the position. One of the biggest narratives is continuity with the quarterback, and everybody making excuses. He's got a different play caller, different offensive coordinator every year. That's part. I mean, who knows? Eventually, if you let Brian Johnson learn on the job and come back, you have continuity, and maybe you go win, and maybe he goes and becomes a head coach. I'm not going to say you're going to have long-term continuity because you're going to have success. So impatience, that is a tool that they do not give.
I would say this. I agree that that's something. Here's the problem. Like, I don't know. This is my mentality. I guess I'm different than if you're at this level coaching, you got here because you have extreme confidence in yourself that you are going to start at the low level as an intern or a tape coordinator or a offensive assistant where they don't even have a title for you. If you stick it out to where you're up for this job and you don't have the confidence to succeed, you suck anyway because you don't have it here. If I'm coaching, I believe I'm better than the guy across from me, no matter if I have the better talent or not, because coaches believe that they make that big of a difference. And it's your talent's better than mine, but I'm going to out-scheme your ass. If you are a coach and you don't think you can succeed in this job because Brian Johnson didn't make it or Kevin Patullo didn't make it, and you don't have the confidence in yourself to supersede them, then you're the problem. It's not the Eagles' fault. Now, they may have been irrational, but guess what? If you get to this level and you win 11 games and end up getting fired, you're probably going to land on your feet. Like, you also have to have the element of, guess what? I'm going to take a shot on myself. And if I end up getting fired, guess what? I'll get another job.
Well, I guess
it didn't work out for Brian Johnson. I mean, the guy's a first-year coordinator with a top 8 offense. His defense is 31st in the league. You talk about a scapegoat? I mean, in a league that prioritizes the Rooney Rule and all these things, what's more damaging? I mean, you got a guy who's a first-year coordinator in the NFL who leads a number 8 offense. They blow him out after one season with a defense that can't stop a nosebleed. And now he's demoted. He's back to being an assistant. He's not a coordinator anymore.
No,
the more I look back at the Brian Johnson thing,
he's the assistant head coach in Washington.
He was assistant head coach.
I don't know if the assistant head coach is an upgrade or downgrade.
No, it's a downgrade because Kevin Patullo was the associate head coach here and passing game coordinator, and then got promoted. It is, even though you are an assistant head coach,
I guess my point. So you're either going to come to Philadelphia and get a chance to go be on a Super Bowl organization, a team that's only success is really winning the Super Bowl, which is bizarre to say. Like, if they don't win the Super Bowl, most times now you're saying they failed. Or I could go to Cleveland or Vegas and just rot. I mean, okay, it's a confidence thing. Can I be the guy that goes to Cleveland? Because and turns that thing around. I give you all the credit in the world if you believe you're that guy, confident-wise. I can go to Cleveland and turn this thing around. Like, I'm going to be the guy that turns that thing around. I got no problem with that thinking, but then you should have the same thinking that you can handle getting more than 19 points in a playoff game at home with the offensive weapons that you have here. Kevin Patullo, I said it on this show every week, should look at himself in the mirror and say, I failed. I sucked at my job. And he should have said to Nick, I'm sorry I let you down. You don't have to fire me. I am going to walk away because I was so bad at my job. But that doesn't happen in this world. Now, I agree with you, John. I said the Eagles better hope this guy works out because you got to hire another new guy now. And that's what ends up happening. You need to get another coordinator because this guy was not equipped to do the job. Now, Brian Johnson, maybe he was the guy that they should have stuck with a little longer and given another opportunity.
100%. It's not even a question to me.
Well, and to Zander's point, I mean, Brian Johnson, he landed on his feet. He got another job. He's.
But all these guys do. All these guys.
And Kevin will too. But the only point is, he was it was funny. He was getting head coaching interviews.
Yeah.
The year he got fired. He was still getting head coaching.
3 years later.
Now you don't hear a peep about Brian Johnson. So it impacted his
100%.
His ability to move forward. It definitely impacted it.
You know what, guys? Can I ask both of you this? Doesn't it?
By the way, Brian Johnson is 38 years old. There's another chance for him. I mean, that's another thing we have in this world. If you're 30 years old and you're not the play caller, you suck. I mean, what is wrong with the world? Like, everyone's trying to find the 29-year-old guy to come call plays. Brian Johnson's 38 years old. Like, maybe he got the job a little too early, and maybe he needs to go back through the right channels of taking your time, going through the system, blah, blah. Well, he did do that. Yeah, he did it for 1 year. He was a quarterback coach for like 2 years. Like, maybe you need to be the position coach for a couple of years.
The weird thing going through it both, I think the Eagles have more belief in Kevin Patullo than Brian Johnson. That's the interesting point. That the fact that, yeah, they had to fire the guy because of the optics. I don't even think anybody wanted to fire the guy this time.
Oh, they should have. Guys, let me ask you.
Which is why they're asking him to hang around.
Is it better to take a job with a shitty organization as a coach than it is a good one? I mean, look at some of the coaches who are getting hired this cycle. They're all guys who failed. You mentioned Brian Dable. The guy's 20-40. No worries. But, I mean, the Lions OC, he got fired. Lions OC is nowhere to be found. Kevin Patullo got fired. He's nowhere to be found in interviews. I mean, if you fail in a big organization, a big-time successful organization, it almost seems like you got a longer wait period than if you fail for a shitty organization.
Yeah. And Brian Dable's interesting because, he was in Buffalo, which is a rabid fan base. He goes up there. He had 2 good years with the Buffalo Bills. Before that, his offenses were terrible. I mean, his stops before Buffalo, he was like the 28th ranked offense. I mean, bottom like 7 almost everywhere. And then he got Josh Allen. And then he lived off those 2 years. He comes to New York. And I could look at Daboll and just say, look, I've been in Buffalo. I've been in New York. I don't need this shit anymore. I don't need to be in the pressure cooker every single day. Let me go to Nashville, little honky tonk. I got the first overall pick in the draft. I can run my offense. It's a defensive head coach. Like, he's
going to be a hero. They're going to win 7 games, and he's going to be a hero, at least early on.
So after being in New York and getting hammered for 60 games of like, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, we suck. What do you want me to do? At Buffalo, where, he had success, obviously, that got him that job, I think he's ready to kind of say, I need a little break from this weather and pressure cooker. I'm going to go to Nashville where nobody cares at all. They're getting a new stadium down there. He gets to run his whole – that's another thing. You're the head coach of a team. You probably, your next job, you want a little bit of control still. So he gets to go to Nashville where Saleh is the head coach, and he will not get involved – with your play calling. That. Whereas here, that's not a given. Whether they say you have autonomy or not, you still have an offensive head coach. And we all saw the Hard Knocks, whether we want to think Nick's involved or not, you hear him in the game telling the guy, let's keep running the rock, keep pounding the rock, run the ball. Hey, where's our shot play? He's still talking to the coordinator, telling him, hey, think about this. Don't forget about that. You're not getting that with Robert Saleh to Brian Dable.
I don't think Nick trusted Patullo. At least it seems like that, or maybe he listened to some of the outside noise. But it did seem like even some of the press conference comments he made this year, I thought were interesting. So I don't know. Maybe he never trusted Patullo. Maybe he listened to the outside noise.
This is where, you grow up with a friend. You bicker all the time. Whether that guy is more knowledgeable about the topic than you may be, you don't believe that he is. You're friends. So you bicker back and forth. So you have a friend that you give the job, and he's the play caller, and you're saying, I still know more than you do. And that guy's saying, no, you don't. And you're saying, yeah, I do. So I want you to run the ball here. Well, I don't want to run the ball here. And then it's almost like the feeling I could just picture myself having an argument with my buddy Mike that I went to college with. Like, why don't you run the ball here? No, you got to throw the ball here. That's 2 friends having a conversation in real time during a football game. And it's Nick saying we should run. And maybe it's Kevin thinking, no, man, I want to pass here. Like, you can't have.
You know what? You know what I want at the end of the day, and we kept Mike long. I apologize, Mike, but what I want at the end of the day that will make the next coordinator, whoever it is, be successful. Get the players to fucking play better because they didn't live up to their reputations.
My buddy texts me. He hates Patullo, and I'm not the biggest Patullo guy in the world. Listen, but I'm also rational. Okay, like I'm not just gonna just be the guy who just starts vomiting stuff out at a guy without some sort of measured approach to like why was he so bad at his job? And their offensive line was abysmal this year, which took his ability away to really have what this team has had over the last 5 years, a strong running game. So you took the running game out of his offense. Now, you could say his passing game wasn't creative enough, and I would say, yeah, I agree. But I would ask anybody watching today, go spend a couple bucks on the All-22 and just watch a game. And you will see guys open all game long that the quarterback just refuses to throw the ball to. There are guys open in this simple offense. They were open in years past, so they were open this year too. If you watch an All-22 tape for 10 minutes and just chart their offense, you will say, man, look at Devontae Smith. He's actually open on this play. And, wow, Dallas Goedert is open a lot. And the quarterback just won't throw him the ball. He's always trying to make the big play. And then when the offensive line breaks down and he starts getting out of there, the play is over. So Patullo had guys open. He got guys open, just didn't get them, routinely open as much as you would like. It's not like every single play. Wow, look at this. They're open everywhere. It's not the greatest show on turf by any stretch. But there's tons of plays made even in this simple offense because they have the talent. The problem is not everybody on the same page, and the execution of this offense, quite frankly, was not executed very well.
Mike, man, we appreciate you coming in. You had a lot of good stuff today. As always, we appreciate it, brother. Make sure everybody goes and follows Mike at Mike Gill Show. Heading down to Santa Clara next week. Mike, going to be good to listen to your show from down there.
I will not be there this time.
We will be in Santa Clara. Yeah. By the way, our first guest on Wednesday, it will be 3 o'clock in the East. It will be noon in the West. Will be Donovan McNabb. We're going to talk to McNabb.
Man, love it.
So we'll talk about what he sees there. As I said, we're tentatively scheduled to talk to Nakobe Dean. We're hoping we're working on some times there. Also, some other pretty cool guests. If you want to watch on our YouTube channel, Bo Jackson is going to be on the show.
Wow.
Michael Irvin is going to be on the show. Vernon Davis is going to be on the show. So we're going to be talking to some big guys down there next week. And a lot of it's going to be about this Eagles offense and, quite frankly, the defense. We're going to talk to a lot of defensive players, too, about there's going to be a lot of new pieces. They had a lot of new pieces on this defense. They're going to need a lot of new pieces on this defense coming up. So it should be a fun week of shows. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Mike, love it, man. That sounds great. I'll be tuned in on the Sports Bash 97.3. Thanks for doing it today, Mike. We'll talk to you again soon. All right, brother?
See ya.
All right. There's Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Right here. Another great segment with Mike, man. Always brings such good intel or insight into
one of these years we got to go to Radio Row, man.
Yeah, 100%.
We gotta. You don't even have to go to the game, guys. Just go to Radio
I know.
Row.
One of my bucket list things I gotta get done. Definitely want to do that. John, this is just top of mind for me today. Me and Celia talked about this yesterday on the afternoon show, and I thought back, and I've always thought that Brian Johnson was treated unfairly. The more I look back on that, the more we remove ourselves from that season and gain more context about the current Eagle regime. What a fucking travesty what they did to Brian Johnson. I mean, they had one of the worst defenses in pro football.
Was the worst, I would argue, by the end of the season.
Defense in pro football. and they have a top 8 offense. And I don't know what the advanced metrics say. Jalen passed the ball, now I know that they had more turnovers, but he did pass the ball at a higher clip than most other seasons. And I think the most in his career. A first-year coordinator who's 35 years old. And they blow him out like he's a pile of dog shit. I mean, I don't even. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, you have a 31st ranked defense. Why are you blowing out the OC, who was a top 10 offensive coordinator in his first year? The more I look back on that, it pisses me off, and 2, it makes it all just, yeah. What? Who would want to coach here, John? Who the hell would want to coach here? As an offensive guy, why would Charlie White? You said, they weren't going to get the job. Hey, maybe you're right. Why would he want to start his NFL coaching career in Philly? Declan Lewis, why would he go to Philly when he can sit there behind Ben Johnson and he might be another guy who gets a job because of that. I mean, that is that it just pisses
Well,
me.
the point when I bring it, and I've been talking about it since the time, I thought it was absurd that they moved on from Brian Johnson since the because it was the defense. Um it was the deep end, and Jalen turned it over too much. That was
He
part
did.
of the
He
problem
did,
there.
but I don't think that's
But
Brian Johnson's fault.
there's no doubt he should have gotten a second season. There's no doubt, but it's hard to argue because, in hindsight, because look at what happened. You go to the Super Bowl, so people aren't going to listen to that, but they might have went to the Super Bowl with him, but we'll never know. What I can say is that there are reasons like that. That's the part that I find hard. I find it hard to believe that doesn't resonate. Like so many people think, why wouldn't you want to coach here? There's a million reasons why. And you just gave one of them. I mean, that's real. And I think the top, before you get to some of the personnel things and, whether it's Jalen Hurts and his limitations, whether it's the personnel not being quite as good as it once was, all that kind of stuff, I believe the top of it is the impatience of Jeffrey Lurie. I've said that consistently. The eye of the storm of people that don't want to come here is related to the impatience of this organization in these circumstances. 11 wins and a playoff berth is not a bad season in 90% of NFL markets. Here, it's considered a failure and guys get blown out. I'll be honest, it's much more controversial than Brian, as you pointed out, as you've gotten away from it. Kevin Patullo should be the offensive coordinator of this team. That's my belief.
What is Kevin Patullo's role? He's still in the organization, right?
Yeah, he hasn't been fired. Now, I ultimately I think he'll land somewhere else, probably in sort of a senior offensive role, like Mike Kapka got in Detroit. Ultimately, you look at New Orleans, it might come. It might come. He got very close to Kellen Moore. It might come in. It might come in Indianapolis with Shane. Somewhere. Now, but again, I don't know his mentality. Again, when we talk about the off the field stuff, he's got, his daughter is one of the best. I don't know how old she is, but she's one of the best, I know at the time, high school golfers in the country. Literally, I mean, she's unbelievable. And she might have a future to be a pro golfer one day, but the point is he might not want to uproot. I don't know. And he might sort of like the osmosis they did when Howie came back. They said, well, we're going to hire a personnel guy and they're going to share the job. And then they forgot about it. And it just sort of grew. Maybe they just put him back and say, well, we're just going to put him over here and he's going to grow. He might stay with the organization. I think that depends on him and where he wants to go. And if he wants to uproot his family and uproot her and, it could be again, there's so many different things. It could be he wants to have her in the place she's in because of her potential future. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. There's a lot of things that can factor into it, is what I'm trying to say. But, he definitely had some growing pains. Okay. Any first-time playing caller is going to have growing pains. So, if that's a non-starter for everybody in Philadelphia, why are you even talking to Declan Doyle? Why are you even talking to Sean Mannion? Why are you even talking to Charlie Weiss Jr.? Because they're going to have growing pains. And if you're not going to wait for it, which is fine, that's it's Jeffrey's job. It's Jeffrey's team, not his job. He can do whatever he wants ultimately, but if you're not going to have patience, then you better go get Matt Nagy or you better go get somebody like that. And to their credit, the first two guys they focused on, Brian Daboll and Mike McDaniel, have extensive play calling experience. So ultimately, that's where I think they'll end up, somebody with extensive play calling experience. But look, if you're not going to have patience with a young guy growing into the job, don't give it to that guy.
If I'm Matt Nagy, I'm thinking long and hard. Do I want to end my coaching career by going to Philly for a year? It's got to be a thought.
I don't. To Mike's point, where I think he's right. Most guys have confidence in themselves, but I think people.
But they also are realists. I mean, they understand the nature of the business that they're in.
Well, I think people conflate lack of.
I lose John here. I think I lost Johnny Mac. Do I still have the chat? Everybody still with me in the chat? Is it me or is it John? Yeah, I lost John here. All right, let me wait on here. I'll probably get John back on the show in a second here. Let's see what John has to say. I got some super chats I'll get to. I think John brings up a good point here with this offense. A lot of stuff going on here. So I don't know. That bothers me about the whole Brian Johnson thing. Sliger, I see your question, with the inexperience of Brian Johnson and how that unfolded and everything there. But and maybe it is hindsight, but don't you think the added context naturally will change, a thought process where you look and you see the problems that have unfolded since the departure of Brian Johnson, and the offense has, in many metrics gotten worse, and you're like, oh, well, boy, he was not the problem. He was not the problem. But I understand it's a complex thing. The thing I think about, I know some people won't like this, but it is a factor. I mean, you have a league that talks about, empowering, people of color, black head coaches, black coaching, the Rooney Rules instituted to give these guys more opportunity. You got a guy who's 35 years old who coaches a top 8 offense. And by the way, the advanced metrics say that too. I'm looking at PFF, whatever. If you don't like PFF, that's fine. They were number 8th ranked. Their passing offense in 2023 from a grading standpoint was also number 8th ranked, the highest of Jalen Hurts in this era's career. And you blow that guy out with the 31st ranked defense? I mean, you heard John, he thought it was the worst defense in football. I mean, think about that. And then if you're a coach coming into Philly to coach in Philadelphia, how do you not look at that and say, man, if any of the other variables that exist in the game of football don't go our way. In other words, if our defense performs like one of the worst defenses in the league, they're going to hold that on me. They're going to fire me. They're going to demote me across the league. Mike has a point. Most people land on their feet. Kevin Patullo won't see an offensive coordinator job, I'd say, for minimum 5 years, and maybe ever. Brian Johnson's still not back. He's going into year 4 or 3. So I mean, it's this is a high stakes position. And all NFL positions are high stakes, but it does feel like the Eagles' position has become so, such a high stakes spot that for some people the juices might not be worth the squeeze. The juice might not be worth the squeeze. I'll get some supers. I'll bring these up to John when John joins me back. I think his internet was bad today, so I don't know if it crapped out. Let me see if he texted me. John lost. He got the Xfinity text. Hi, it's Xfinity Assistant. We've identified a network performance. We're actively working to fix it by 11:05 a.m. John might be done for the day, folks. I'll talk to BLG for a little bit when BLG comes in and see. We have BLG coming up at 9:20. Let's get to some super chats. Him Bison, how come there's no talk of Greg Roman anymore? Well, I don't know, to answer your question clearly. I don't know. I don't know why he's not. Why they're not talking. Why he hasn't come up. I kind of like the idea of Greg Roman. I just brought up the idea of a young guy who feels like they could, screw up the rest of their career if you come coach in Philly and, wipe your ass the wrong way. I mean, think about it. Oh, I'm 38, you're 30. I'm in my 30s. Ideally, I want to coach until I'm in my 50s or 60s. Yeah, let me go to Philly because that seems to be working out well, right? Now, I get it. People will point to Kellen Moore. All right. People will point to Shane Steichen. I understand that there's instances of those successes too, but you can't talk about them and not talk about the grave failures as well. So it's an interesting setup. It really is. I don't know what's going on with Greg. John says working to get back. I doubt it. Uh-oh, you might be cooked. Maybe I'll get him by phone. Here's Pumper. Zander, yes, sir. Zander, sir, I'll tell you who got Brian Johnson fired. His name, Jalen Alexander Hurts. The MFer was a turnover machine, and he got his buddy Cant. Well, Jalen was a turnover machine in 23. There's no doubt about that. But again, I don't think it's. I just look at that and I think in relevance to the coaching search, Pump, not so much Jalen. I get it. Jalen was a part of them. I'm not saying he wasn't, but not in relevance to where the team is right now. Why are no names interested? Why are people not coveting this job? Why is coaching for the Tennessee Titans more attractive than coaching for the Philadelphia Eagles? I mean, if you look, the answer's right in front of you. The answer's right in front. But I hear you, Pump. I'm not. Yeah, that's good. Let's get John on the phone. Put Johnny Mac on the phone. I just sent him the link, so he'll join us. But yeah, I just wanted to rage about that a little bit. I mean, I was talking to Celia yesterday, and the more we talk about it, the more I'm just like, whew. And Slager, I think you're right, man. I think you're right. No pressure. Mike's point on coaching in New York and then coming to Philly, I get it. You don't want to do that. Maybe Dable wants an easier life. And it's tough to be the chance, man. It's tough to have high expectations. That goes for everywhere in life. If you have great expectations of yourself as a man, as a person, as a woman, as an individual, you're going to be more upset than others sometimes. That's just the nature of the beast. If you want to achieve great things in your life, the chance that you are more miserable than most is high. I think it was Kobe Bryant who explained that well. So it's an interesting setup. Let's bring Johnny Mac in front. Johnny Mac, you with me, brother?
Yeah, you got me?
I got you, man. They blew you, John. They blew you out of there, dude.
Internet outage. Working to fix. Thanks. I shall not mention the name of the company, but come on, Xfinity, let's go. Oh, I let it slip.
Yeah, I already outed it. But when you were gone, I read a couple super chats. I'll read them to you real quick. We got BLG coming up in a little bit. Him says, how come there's no talk of Greg Roman anymore, John? What do you know about that?
Yeah, I never any inkling of it. A couple guys I'm a little surprised by. Him, Cliff Kingsbury, there's really not been any talk about him as well. So there have been a couple guys. I always thought Greg Roman would be a good fit if you wanted to stay pretty much status quo and wanted to build on and get better from what they were good at in 2024, and that's the running game. And I thought he made a lot of sense. And, I think they're more focused on the evolution part of it than just going back to what they were. That's my best explanation on why no Greg Roman.
Yeah, makes sense. Here's Pumper said, fellas, Shefty alluded to Eagles news next week other than an offensive coordinator. Retirement, ? Lane, Stout, Vic. I don't know. I didn't see that. I don't know if you know anything about it, John.
I did see a little note. I think he was on 97.5, but I obviously I'm doing the show here, so I didn't hear what he said. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on, as we mentioned with Mike and this day. I think it's been sort of hidden by the offensive coordinator search, but there's got to be a lot of decisions made. But this time of year, obviously you're not going to talk a lot about personnel things, before the new league year starts in March 11th, whatever it is, March 13th, I guess. So, potential retirement would be one of the things in that conversation at this time of year. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but there's, that's a big question, and the Eagles are going to want to know, and certainly Lane Johnson's going to let them know so they can make the proper adjustments if he's not going to play. But it could also be he's coming back, so doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing.
We'll see what ends up happening there. Good stuff, John. Interesting conversation, John. We're going to have BLG in a little bit. I don't know. I'm sure. I don't think you're John, I hate to break it down. I don't think your internet's coming back, my guy. So you're going to be up by the phone as long as it holds. So we'll talk to BLG when he joins in. Going to be interesting to talk to him. But I don't know when the clarity is going to come on this, John, with this offensive coordinator. But, the more we talk about it, the more I think it does have evident problems. And, we'll see when they get the solution. Maybe it's today. Maybe it is a Matt Nagy, John. Maybe that's who ends up here in Philly, or, a guy like that.
Well, that's my speculation, is that that's where I would go. I mean, I don't understand the thought process of going with a younger guy, other than if you want to grow with that person. And they've shown no evidence that they want to grow with inexperience. So I don't even know why they bother, from the standpoint of the. And again, I do understand why they bother, because they like to use this as parallel things. They like it to be fact-finding. And from that point, I get it. I get wanting to talk to younger people who have different ideas. But from the actual main search to find an offensive coordinator, I mean, those guys shouldn't even be relevant in my mind, because they've already shown, they've demonstrated history. They are not going to let somebody just grow. So either you think, we'll use Sean Mannion because he's the latest one. Either you think he's the boy wonder who can do it right out of the gate and understand he's going to be a head coach somewhere else next year, or he's going to be a failure, and you're not going to be willing to grow with him. Where's the only upside there is the small path of winning the Super Bowl. That's it, because you're not going to stick with him. You don't have the patience to stick with him.
Yeah, it's true. All right, John, we got BLG in the green room. BLG, if you're listening, we had an internet droppage about 5 minutes ago. So we got John, but he's by phone today. Let's bring Brandon Lee Gouton in right now here from Bleeding Green Nation. You can follow him at Brandon Gouton and read all his work at bleedinggreennation.com. BLG, welcome to the program. Day number 16 of the offensive coordinator search. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm a makeshift BLG, but I'm glad to see you. You can't see me, but Sean Mannion, boy, that one shocked me. I mean, he's 2 years off playing in the NFL. Very fast riser. Obviously, started out low-level role. Already he's quarterback's coach by year 2, and now he's getting an OC interview with one of the most talented teams in football. When you saw Sean Mannion pop up, what were your first thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a tough sell from the standpoint of, you're moving on from Kevin Patullo. In part, you would think, at least because the lack of play calling experience, and wanting someone who is more established in that role. Now, since you've potentially struck out on those options at this point in time, I think that's absolutely fair game to interview someone like that, because I think it's time to get a little bit creative and think outside the box, as opposed to maybe go with someone just for the sake of going with someone who's called plays, and example, someone like Matt Nagy. But I mean, it's really green when you're looking at Sean Mannion in terms of 2 years of coaching experience.
BLG, do you think the optics of this are as bad as they seem, or it just seems like does nobody want to coach here? Or, is the organization not as good of an organization as we thought? How do you kind of see it, and how much do you think the optics are true? Given what they are.
I mean, I don't think they look awesome. I think it's too much to say that oh, the search is going completely how the Eagles expected it, and they're fine, and they're just being really patient and doing their due diligence. Like, that's a little too much to me. I think it's a little overboard too to say that it's a total disaster. There's no hope. They can't possibly get it right. I'm somewhere in between those two things. I do think it's fair to say um, this could have gone a better way for them, and then they would have liked it to go a better way than this. Like, I don't think this is their plan A, and just because you don't have plan A doesn't mean you can't succeed, as we've seen with the Eagles' last two head coaching hires. But it's hard to feel amazing. It's hard to feel inspired, I guess is the way I'd put it. I don't think you look at the options here that are remaining and say, wow, I feel really super inspired and confident about who they're going to hire.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem, BLG, is that typically I think one of the Eagles' biggest strengths is their ability to have contingency plans. And I get the feeling that the contingencies weren't great here. They weren't prepared normally as well as usual. And when it became clear that Mike McDaniel didn't have a ton of interest in coming here, and Brian Daboll kind of informed them that he was going to, if he didn't get a head coaching job, he's going to go with Robert Saleh, who's developed a close relationship with. I just get the feeling that it was more of an oh shit than normal. Normally they would have they would have people in place, and you see these names, and now they want to talk to Davis Webb, and I see that Denver already blew out their offensive coordinator. That tells me, I don't know what it tells you, but that tells me they're gonna give him the OC job there. So I don't know how realistic that is, and I don't know. These names just seem very off the wall. Now, they also use this for two things. They try to use it as a fact-finding mission and try to get ahead of the trends and all that. So from that standpoint, it's great. But to your point, there aren't that many options left. Mm-hmm. It's great to be patient, but when everybody else acts with urgency and guys start taking the off-ramp, what are you left with? You're left with what's left, and that doesn't look great. Is that too pessimistic?
No, I think that's fair from a standpoint, too, of, like, no one is saying, like, in theory, casting a wide net is, like, a bad thing. Because, yeah, you're collecting more information. But are you casting a wide net because you're trying to gather all that information, and that's truly your number one objective? Or are you casting a wide net in part because you don't have options, and you kind of have to at this point? And I think, it's probably a mix of those two things, but certainly as time goes on, feels like it's kind of leaning more into the latter there, where they're like, yeah, oh crap, like what are we doing here? What are we going to go with? And it's almost like the way I've been thinking about it is, when they make this Kevin Patullo move, and they're not doing it with the idea like, oh, we have this person lined up, so therefore we're going to make that move. It's more of like you leapt before you looked instead of you looked before you leapt. And here we are, all this time later, still looking.
No doubt about it. It's really a weird. It's really an odd setup right now for this team with this offensive coordinator search. We will see if it comes to conclusion. BLG, do you think they'll have their hire this week? I mean, we're going to be after 3 weeks now. I mean, after this week, I was expecting it to come this week. Do you think we're close to this hire? Do you think we're close?
It's hard to say, right? I mean, they're talking to Manian for, I guess, a second time. I don't know if they've definitely talked to anyone else a second time. Maybe they have. I don't know. So maybe they're starting to narrow it down. Maybe that's part of why we saw some of these other guys drop out. But I mean, I don't know. Like,
do you think it's Nick Sirianni? Do you think Nick Sirianni? Like, do you think it's him that's a part of it? That people don't want to coach with him, or do you not view it as that at all?
I've been very critical of Nick Sirianni, as most people know. I don't think it's that, though, alone. I think that could be a factor.
Right.
It's a factor in the sense, too, that, like, I think people are looking at this situation knowing that, like, it's not a guarantee, he makes it through. Like, I mean, he might make it through next season, but, like, he's not guaranteed necessarily after that, just from a standpoint of he's almost been fired before.
Yeah, and they just got reported they almost fired him in week 4 last year.
Exactly, and then what if they get off to a rocky start this year, coming off a disappointing season in 2025? So it's not. I don't think it's just that. I think it's the combination of all these factors in terms of the obstacles that come with. Like, you're probably not going to pick your run game coordinator. Jeff Stoutland's going to be here, and you could say, okay, people should be happy with that. And I agree, people should be happy with that. But the reality is not everyone is. And Cliff Kingsbury reportedly wasn't happy with that in the past. So it's that. It's, there's many things. The one thing I will push back on, and I can't say for certain I know the Eagles are putting this out there, but I kind of get the sense, from some of the national insiders, the idea that, like, oh, it's the media and it's the fans. That is so weak to me. Come on. That is maybe like a small factor in a bigger picture, but that is not the main reason an offensive coordinator is not taking the job in Philadelphia.
No, definitely not the man. I'm with you. There could be like 10 different reasons at different times, but here's how I describe it. Of all these things, and it can go from, there's it's a tough place to coach. We all know that. That's a small part of it. The personnel issues. Maybe some guys don't like the style of Jalen Hurts. That's a part of it. And, maybe descending offensive line talent and injuries. And is A.J. Brown going to be back? Is Lane Johnson going to retire? Things like that. That's all of a part of it. There's 90 different things that are a part of it. Nick Sirianni's a part of it. But the eye of the storm to me, and I want to hear your eye of the storm, BLG, the top reason that I don't think this job is what a lot of people think it should be is because of the impatience of Jeffrey Lurie. As you mentioned, the Eagles go to the Super Bowl. I think outplay Kansas City, but they lose. And the next year, he's thinking about firing. And then 2-2, he's thinking about firing. And then they go win the Super Bowl again. And they're blowing out where Brian Johnson had the 8th ranked offense in the NFL, and they blow him out. Kevin Patullo, all right, yes, the offense was certainly below average. But bottom line is they won 11 games and they made the playoffs again with a first-time play caller. And if you do that in most cities, Brandon, you get an extension. You don't get blown out. And that's what happens here. If I had to, and I got a list of about 10 things, but if I had to say the top thing, I think it's Jeffrey Lurie's impatience. What would your top thing be?
So, I don't think that's invalid, but I do think, as I've talked about a lot, and Mike Clay from ESPN put out a good graphic yesterday on Twitter, like all the coordinators and head coaching hires in the NFL and play callers when they were hired. And there hasn't been a single offensive coordinator play caller, so not, one of these offensive coordinators or head coaches calling the plays for last year, 2025. It's the longest tenured offensive coordinator play caller in the NFL. That's insane. Think about that. It's not even just like a Jeffrey Lurie problem to that point. Like, it's literally, the standard has become good offense, you get hired away as a head coach. Bad offense, you get fired. Maybe, you get like 1 year. But like that's kind of like the realistic best case scenario at this point in time. So I think it's not just a Jeffrey Lurie problem. It's an NFL problem on the whole in terms of just there's no patience for these offensive coordinators and these play callers.
Bill, do you think Jalen has any say in the process? You hear Buffalo where they got like Josh Allen sitting in interviews. I don't think the Eagles are doing that, but do you think Jalen Hurts has any say in this process?
I don't think he's making a final call by any means. I'm sure he is not totally in the dark. I would be surprised if that was the case. Although Jalen's a unique guy, maybe he is. Maybe he would say that. I would just have that. I'd be hard pressed to believe that because I feel like he's part of the equation, and therefore there would have to be some kind of sense of, what do you think about this candidate? So I don't think he's calling the shots, but I do think that is a voice in consideration in the process ultimately.
How much do you think his style is maybe I don't want to say detract, but detract. Like Mike Gill was on earlier, he's right. I mean, some coordinators, it's not a knock on Jalen, but they just don't want to coach that style, and most, John will always say, many will say, good coaches adapt to their players.
Right.
Well, if you don't have to, and you have an option to go and coach somewhere where you can get a different quarterback, is that a factor? How much do you think that's a factor, the style of play that the offense runs?
I think it is a factor. And again, maybe you can say, just like I said, the Stoutland thing, like it shouldn't be, or if the perception is that it is a limiting factor for them, then that's the reality that we're dealing with here. And yeah, I don't think it should be, to the extent that obviously the Eagles have proven, and Jalen Hurts has proven, he can win at a high level. And coaches should be able to figure that out to some extent. But if the perception is they'd rather, it's all, it's not just in a vacuum. It's would I rather work with Jalen Hurts, or would I rather work with, in the case of Brian Dable, Cam Ward, or Mike McDaniel, Justin Herbert. And clearly those guys, made their picks. And that doesn't mean, they're definitely right about it, and that they're not going to struggle this year. But ultimately it means that the Eagles are still looking for their offensive coordinator, and I think Jalen is a factor in that.
I don't know if you saw it, BLG, but evidently Shefty was doing his spot.
Yeah.
Schefter was doing a spot on 97.5. Our friends over there, the Fanatic, and he dropped sort of a little hint that there was going to be some news next week that didn't have to do with the offensive coordinator. Now, we know you can't trade players at this time of year. You have to wait for the start of the new league year. You can't sign free agents, same thing. So, other than a potential retirement, can you think of anything else that it could be?
Yeah, you want to put, like, this is like a tinfoil, hat.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead. That's what I want. Yeah.
We're getting conspiratorial here, just for the disclaimer of it all. What if they're going to trade the head coach? Because you can trade the head coach at this time.
Wow.
Right?
Oh, whoa. I love that. I wasn't expecting that.
Well, think about it. So go back to the press conference that the Eagles had, with Howie and Nick after the season. Howie really pumping up the head coach there, unprompted. Also, the fact that, look at who still needs a head coach, right? The Raiders, a lot of former Eagles employees on that team. The Browns, a lot of connections there with the Eagles as well. Hey, can I interest you in the coach with the highest winning percentage in the NFL? One of the highest winning percentages in NFL history. Am I thinking that's likely at this point in time? No, but I guess that's.
I love it. I did not expect that. I would. And Sean Mannion, the next head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. How about that?
There you go. Come on down.
You got to have that. I love that conspiracy theory.
BLG, the names left, who are the best for you? Like, who would you hire at this point with the names left? Any names stick out?
So we have what? We have like Jim Bob Cooter. We have
Nagy.
We have Grizzard. We have Mannion, apparently. We have a couple others. Who else am I missing?
Well, they want to talk to Davis Webb, but I don't think Jared Johnson, Frank Smith, if you want to throw him in there. It's not exactly the sexiest group in the world.
Yeah. So if this was for the 2025 Eagles, I'm more interested in like Bob Cooter or Matt Nagy, because I think the 2025 Eagles just needed a little bit more competency on offense, with how strong that defense was and how much talent you had on the Eagles offense. I don't know that the 2026 offense, I don't even know what that looks like right now, with Lane Johnson's future up in the air, A.J. Brown's future up in the air, Landon Dickerson. I don't know what I have on offense necessarily, so I'm not just shooting for competency here. I'm more willing to kind of get weird and try to find the next great offensive mind, with the thinking that might be able to help boost this offense that needs it. So for the 2026 Eagles, I'm not necessarily in love with like Sean Mannion specifically, but I'm willing to take a big risk, is my point, more than I'm willing to play it safe.
That's interesting. I'm the exact opposite, but I did not. I'm a Matt Nagy guy. I've already hired him in my mind. He's going to be.
He's
the
had his
next
worst year, or Mahomes had his worst years with them, right?
But you know what? You know who had his best? Yeah, and he went to the playoffs with Mitch Trubisky, which I think is a Herculean effort. I really do. And they were. I think his biggest mistake there was not manipulating the schedule at the end of the season. He could have played Minnesota if he didn't play his players in week, and that was a big mistake. Mm-hmm. And the Eagles beat him in the double doink, but that was really close. I mean. Yeah. Who Trayvon Hester didn't cut his fingernails that day and got his little tip on that's how close they were to advancing. Mm-hmm. He was over 500, and I think that people forgot how bad the Bears were before and after.
Sure.
I don't know. And guess what? They've done it before when they've had trouble finding guys, and they call up Andy and say, who should we hire, Andy? And it's worked before. Well, maybe it'll work again. That's where I am, BLG.
The Andy thing with him, I don't know if you guys saw that, like with Andy talking about how great Matt Nagy is. That's like, come on, Andy, you fired him.
Well, of course he's going to talk up his guys.
No, I get it, but it's just like, it's very funny to be like, to watch that and be like, oh, wow, yeah. No, he clearly doesn't believe, or at least to the extent of what he's saying. You fired him.
Like, yeah, right.
Could have kept him.
If he was so great, you'd have brought him back, or you would have been needing to keep him.
No, in the defense though, his contract did expire. He didn't, and Andy. Now maybe he's lying to us and he's trying to spin it.
Yeah.
But he did say that he told him before the season that he was gonna, he wanted his contract to expire.
Sure.
And he wanted to be a head coach again. I mean, I can buy that. I believe Flores did the same thing. Nobody questioned him. He let his contract expire because he wanted to talk to other teams. Not only about being a head coach, but about being a DC, and he ended up back in Minnesota. But people do that. They do let their contracts expire on purpose. So I can kind of buy it. With this group, I'm buying it. Let's put it that way.
All right.
But I can't imagine Frank Smith. I can't imagine Jared Johnson or Sean Mannion, because how do you sell it with the lack of play calling? Yeah. So I think of the guys we know, it has to be Nagy, Jim Bob, or who am I missing? Josh Grizzard.
Yeah.
I think Grizzard would be terrible. I would not go that route. I'd go Nagy or at that point, but we'll see. All right, BLJ, another Eagle land questions. The A.J. Brown thing will be a topic all year. Me and John did a deep dive look at kind of the numbers, the contract, what you'd get back. Do you expect A.J. Brown to be here for week 1 of the 26 season?
No, I do not. I think this relationship has kind of run its course, and I just have a tough time believing that it's going to change. Like, I don't think the equation changes. I think some people are thinking of this as like, oh, they hire a new offensive coordinator and that fixes everything. I don't think that. A.J. Brown was not like, Kevin Patullo must go. That is my biggest problem with the offense. That's not how he was feeling. I think he even basically said as much. I think it's too far gone. And I don't want that to be the case, to be clear. Like, I don't think the Eagles should trade A.J. Brown in a perfect world. But I think the reality that's staring us in the face is that he doesn't want to be here. And, like, the Eagles have been comfortable with being uncomfortable in the past when it's come to, someone like Zach Ertz. But I just really think it's to your detriment to have a player who's just so – like, you're not getting A.J. Brown at his peak when he's out there and he's demoralized and he's not fully motivated. And, again, that's like, bad. I mean, it's unfortunate. I don't take any joy in that. But I think that's the reality they're facing.
All right, last one from me, BLG. Thanks for sticking through it as I have my internet issues here in South Jersey. But, this offensive coordinator search, I think, has dimmed the beginning of draft season. The Senior Bowl has started, the practices down there. I saw Daniel Jeremiah put out his first mock draft. I believe he had the Eagles taking the Clemson cornerback, Avion Terrell. I can't see them taking a corner at 23 overall, but I don't know how deep you've gotten into the draft, but so I'll go more positions wise. And a lot has to happen. I mean, we got to know about Lane Johnson. We got to know about AJ, which we just talked about. But your early thoughts, they start at 23 overall. I'm at, if it matches up, I'm at offensive line. I mean, I think that's what this team is built upon, and the foundation is starting to crack. So I'm a big offensive line guy this year. I am every year, but even more so this year.
I mean, so have the Eagles. I mean, they've wanted an offensive lineman, as we've talked about a lot, as everyone's talked about a lot in these past whatever many years now, and it just hasn't worked out for them to be able to get that guy. That was the right value, the right fit. But they certainly had the interest. It wasn't not for a lack of interest that they have not taken an offensive lineman high. I go offensive. I just go offense in general because they're, as my good friend Jimmy Kempski just pointed out in a nice column on Philly Voice this week, that they're going to have to shift their priority in terms of, like, they have so many of these young guys on this talented defense who are going to have to get paid, and so you're going to be spending all that money probably on your defensive players. It means you need cheap talent on offense because you're not going to be able to pay everyone the same amount. And you have players obviously looking like they're going to be outgoing in terms of AJ, Lane, Dallas Goedert. So you're going to need replacements here. And I think offense in general is probably how they're going to go, whether that's the offensive line, I think, being the top priority, but also, you can look at receiver, tight end if the fit is right, if the value is right. Not going to rule out that they draft a quarterback when we know this team will do that when we don't expect it. So, I just think offense in general is the safe bet.
We'll see what ends up happening. BLG, it's already been an interesting offseason. We'll see what Schefter's alluding to. They're talking about it in the chat right now. Geez, it seems like it might be something big. I don't know. I didn't hear Schefter. I didn't hear what he said yet, but it seems like there could be something coming.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't have any. I'm not going to leave you guys on a cliffhanger like that. I don't have anything that I know.
I didn't know if you were ready to do it. BLG, thanks for doing it today, brother, giving us some time. As always, we'll talk to you next week. All right, man?
See you guys.
Right,
thanks, bud.
There's BLG joining us right there. John, good stuff, man. Appreciate you doing it through the phone. I don't know, the internet went, but good to have you still. John, what is this thing with Schefter? I didn't see it, but we got people in the chat.
I didn't hear it, so
okay.
It's hard.
I didn't know if you saw it on your X or something like that, or there was a quote.
Well, I did see it on X, but I had to hear what he said. All I saw was that he teased that there's going to be a lot more news than just hiring the offensive coordinator. And obviously, as I said, you can't trade AJ Brown at this time of the year. You can't sign someone other than a futures contract, which are low-level guys this time of year. So I don't know. I can't see the chat. What are people saying in the chat? The only thing I can come up with off the top of my head is a potential retirement or the potential announcement of Lane Johnson is coming back. I don't know how much
that's
more
what
stuff.
It sounds like to me. I mean, that's where my brain goes, immediately when I hear that. So I don't know. Some people are saying he was alluding to something about Sirianni, maybe. I mean,
that's what BLG just took the real conspiracy about trading Nick Sirianni.
Yeah.
So that would be a blockbuster.
Maybe he said so. Bino Eags, John, was listening to it. He said maybe it would be more than a discussion of an OC hiring, and he followed up saying, it will be more of a discussion than just an OC next week. I don't know. I mean, are we looking at something drastic here?
Well, they fired coaches late in the past.
I did ask you the question, is this changing Lurie's perspective, didn't I?
Yeah, not this late. I mean, we've always talked about this is what happened with Doug, man. If you push a guy too far, at some point he's going to put his back to the wall and say, look, I won the Super Bowl. Let me hire my damn coaches. That's what happened with Doug. And Jeffrey said, nah, we got to go in a different direction. I can't imagine they would do that this late in the process. I mean, all of a sudden, then you could probably get Davis Webb to be your head coach. Boy, that would be crazy.
That would be nuts. I don't think that's happening. I think that can't happen.
I think it would be a huge mistake, but I'm kind of flying blind.
Yeah, which I don't want to put you in a bad spot, flying blind. I understand you haven't heard it, so you can't give, as much as you'd like to give. But, geez, I don't know I don't know what's coming with this. I don't know what's coming.
There's just, there's not much you can do on the personnel front this time of year. So, I mean, but again, and Adam's great. I'm not, believe me, I don't want to criticize him, but why do you say shit like that? I mean, if you can't say it, don't say it.
So John Kincaid, who he was talking to, John, I don't think it's that. He tweeted out, if you missed Adam Schefter on the show, he teased us with, we could have a lot more news than the hiring of an OC in the next week. You can't trade players this week or sign free agents. Sounds like a retirement question mark. But yeah, I mean, the other thing you can't, she's right. You can't sign anybody. You can't trade anybody. The only other thing that it would be without being a retirement seems like it'd be a big firing, right? I mean, I don't see where else this thing could go.
Well, there's a lot more moves on there's a lot more moves on the coaching staff you could make.
Yeah, but it's being teased as like big news, like hiring the new secondary or the new safeties coach to replace Joe Casper. Or a new defensive line coach to replace Clint Hurtt if he was to get a coordinator job is not going to make news like Schefter alluded to. I mean, it'll make news for shows like us, but
well, that's why I don't like those teases. It's like if you have information and you can't say it, keep it until you can say it.
No, then you know what happens, John, if you do that though, then you don't have every show in Philly talking about Adam Schefter.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the landscape that has been built. But, kind of old school in that regard, which probably doesn't help me. But
well, John, you've kind of studied the water for me in terms of, I don't know. I was thinking maybe some things that may have been drastic, and you kind of not talking about the ledge, but we're like, hey, look, Zander, there's a couple guys that were high profile. They're not coming here, and now they've opened the thing up to interview everybody. That made some sense to me. Are you starting to change personally with, maybe this is a bigger problem here than we thought, or where are you at personally?
No, in fact, yesterday I got confirmation that they haven't offered anybody the job. So, that narrative is way off base. And certainly when guys like, which I tried to explain right away, what guys like Declan Doyle pull up withdrawal, that's common in the NFL. I mean, that's an indication you're not getting the job. You're not getting the job, and that's sort of a saving face measurement you allow the coaches who aren't getting the job to do. That's just sort of common more than anything else in the NFL. So I do think there's a lot of false narratives out there. Now, clearly, again, they would have offered the job to Mike McDaniel or Brian Daboll, I believe. So, but those were the top guys with multiple options, and they chose different options. So I think that's fair to frame it that way. And then everybody else has been sort of, but I do think they're taking such a long time, as I said, guys, at some point, because almost everybody else acts with more urgency. So guys start taking those off ramps that I explained, whether it's Mike Kafka or, who knows? You can go all the way back to Zach Robinson, and they interviewed him, and all of a sudden Tampa Bay wants to make a decision. They're offering the job. He takes the job. I mean, you can't wait forever. Maybe he does think the Eagles are a better job. So, I mean, some of these things, but you can't wait forever. So I think the Eagles hurt themselves sometimes with these extended searches, and they've done it in the past with head coach, but it's usually out of necessity because they don't get their top choices. And my biggest issue, as I said, I forget if I said it to Mike or BLG there, but my biggest issue is usually they're really good with contingencies. I don't get that feel that they were ready for being turned down by McDaniel and Daboll, as ready as they should have been.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I wonder if the reason that I wonder about some of these retirement, like let's just say that it's Jeff Stoutland is retiring or Lane Johnson. I think Lane would be an easier one. But like if the Eagles knew that Jeff Stoutland was retiring, wouldn't that have made known to the offensive coordinator interviews who, you hear a lot of guys talking about wanting to bring their own running game in. I mean, Mike McDaniel, John, got asked a question at his press conference about the running game. I mean, he goes into this diatribe about how his entire upbringing is about, basically running and playing the game inside out and managing the trenches and being able to run the football. He clearly wanted to call his own run game. If Jeff Stoutland were to be the retirement, don't you think this OC search would have went different if they knew that? Or maybe they didn't know that. I don't know.
A little bit, yeah, I'm sure. With a guy like Mike McDaniel, you're definitely you were going to have to move on from Jeff Stoutland. I mean, there's no doubt about that. His whole background is run game coordinator. I think people don't understand that. Far more history in that than an offensive coordinator before he got the Miami job. So, yeah, And with Jeff, he's had some health issues in the past. Thankfully, they seem to have passed. So when you talk about guys, I mention that with Vic all the time. When you see guys that age, health can always be an impact as well. But yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about hiring Mike McDaniel or Frank Smith even, well, they're not going to coexist with Jeff Stoutland for the most part.
I agree. We'll find out. All right, John, one super chat up. It's it's Nick saying Shefty on 97.5 hinted that more news than OC firing. Yeah, I heard. I just tried to listen to it while I was. He didn't really say much. They were saying we'll talk to you next week, maybe after an OC, and he just says maybe more than that. I don't know. I mean, you got to listen to the clip. I'll send you the clip on X. But we'll see. All right, John, your final thoughts here on a Wednesday edition of the show. As we are in day 16, no offensive coordinator, and now some evolving landscape. Maybe we've been left with a cliffhanger, John, on what it could be next week. Your final thoughts here on a Wednesday edition.
Well, my final thoughts are apologies for the internet issues, but out of my hands. We had some kind of outage near my location, so Xfinity's working on it. Hopefully it will be back tomorrow, and I appreciate everybody's patience, and I'll try to figure out what the hell is going on with this Shefty little bomb, whatever, I guess. Or maybe it's nothing for what you said. Maybe it's nothing.
Might be. John, let me know if you come up with anything. Shoot me a text. If we need to update the people, we will. John, thank you, brother. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, all. See ya.
Yep, there's Johnny Mac. John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. Good stuff from him holding out with the phone. Good, appreciate him doing that. Two good interviews today with Mike Gill and Brandon Lee Gatlin. Now I am interested in this Adam Schefter thing. I feel like it's not going to be a bombshell. I mean, what kind of what are the bombshell potentials at this point? It's really only a couple things, right? I mean, a retirement from probably Lane, Stoutland, and I guess Vic Fangio could plausibly be in that room. I mean, Fangio is 63 years old. Fangio age. Not Juan Fangio. Google, thanks. I'm going to touch 67. Ooh, that's older. We will see. We will see. A little turd nugget. That's pretty funny. Yeah, Gary, I'm with you. Lane probably makes the most sense here. I don't know, though. The reason that I think it's applicable with Stoutland is you've heard how much people don't want to. Gary, I know you liked McDaniel. Dude, go listen to him yesterday at his press conference talk about the run game with Harbaugh. I mean, there's no way he wanted to coach in Philly with Stoutland being the run game coordinator. No way. And I'm not saying to get rid of Stoutland. I'm not. I don't think McDaniels has that much pedigree to move on from Stoutland for him. But when you're talking about factors as to why guys didn't want to come into Philly, maybe that's a big one. That's probably a big one. But who knows, man? Who knows? It's going to be an interesting next week or so, it sounds like. We got the Senior Bowl this week, getting closer to free agency and the draft. Gary, I don't know if it's that they don't want to work with them. I don't think it's that. I think it's more that they have this, I don't know if ego is the right word, but they want to be the run game coordinator. They want control of it. I don't know. Xander, how does that make any sense? Why wouldn't anyone want to learn from someone who broke the NFL record? It's a good point, Abe. Because people have egos, Abe. That's why. Rasputin says Lane's retiring. Rasputin, I think you're probably right. I think you're probably right, honestly. I think that's what it's going to be. I think it's going to be Lane. I do. But I do wonder if that was said, with something in mind. BG re-retire. I don't think that can be a big ceremony now, can it? I mean, you kind of got the big ceremony, right? Last year. So, I don't know. We're going to find out, man. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in this offseason here with this team. But not sure what to make of it or where to go with all of it. BG, I don't think that would be huge news. BG re-retiring? I mean, really? What are we going to do? Twiz, that's a funny-ass way to put it. Breaking news. Something might happen next week. Twiz, that'd be breaking news every week, wouldn't it, brother? That'd be breaking news every week. I'm missing my damn thing. Rasputin says, what incentive does Lane have to come back? I don't know, $25 million? Is that not an incentive enough? I don't know what world you live in, but $25 million bucks. I mean, that could make the richest man in the world come back. Maybe not that much, but shit, I could be worth $1 billion. 25 million sounds pretty damn good, but maybe not. Maybe not when you're talking about the body and everything there, but I don't think Lane's a billionaire. I think 25 million, excuse me, is a pretty good incentive. John says, breaking news, the Eagles have released Jay. Oh, stop it. That's not happening. Gary says, the foot injury is tough, especially for a huge dude like that. That prognosis might not. I agree, Gary, completely. I mean, you heard when he went down, it was like 4 to 6 weeks, and then it kept getting extended, never came back. I agree. I think that foot injury is a big problem. The way he didn't come back, I agree. Y'all roasting print media. Alf, I'll roast print media. A bunch of fucking scrubs in the Hall of Fame. If Bill Belichick isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer, then nobody's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Then why the fuck does the first ballot Hall of Famer even exist? What is the point of the process? If Bill Belichick, who's the winner of 6 Super Bowls as a head coach and won 8 total in his coaching career, 2 of them with the New York Giants, what the fuck are we doing? I mean, really? So print media should be roasted. A bunch of stiffs. How do you not get the 40 votes? How do you not get the 40 votes? I mean, you got to have some integrity for the game. If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, nobody is. And don't miss me with the stupid bullshit of the flake gate, all that crap. Miss me with that crap. I don't give a rat's ass about that when it comes to this. He has 6 Super Bowls. I mean, what do you have? A bunch of nerds who've never played the game who want to stick it to him? Who want to teach him a lesson because he was grumpy at the podium? It's stupid. Apparently, Belichick was shocked. You think? You think, Crowley? He's got the most probably decorated coaching resumes of all time. Shocked? I mean, Crowley, I put in the chat. He is like literally the epitome of what a first ballot is. I mean, he's on. Would Brady ever not be a first ballot? Would Brady ever not be a first ballot? All right, then good. Then why would Belichick not be a first ballot? He's going to get in, Kevin. That's not the problem. The first ballot is the question. Everybody makes a big deal about the first ballot. How do you not put Bill Belichick in as a first ballot Hall of Famer? It doesn't even compute. Unless you think Brady shouldn't be a of those things. Yeah, but nobody thinks that. Because I mean, but Mike, dude, you'd be surprised. That's how these weird ass writers are. Some of them. Oh, the Hall of Fame voting's in a terrible spot. Brady might not be. Well, if Brady's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, then the Hall of Fame is fucking pointless. Take your gold jackets and rip them up. Who gives a fuck about them? Completely diligent. It's what the Baseball Hall of Fame has become. Congratulations. You're going to become like the Baseball Hall of Fame, which most people who are sports fans think is a complete and utter joke. Some of the greatest baseball players of all time that aren't in the Baseball Hall of Fame because a bunch of fucking nerds with a notebook think that they're more important to tell the story of baseball than some of the greatest players to ever play in the game. And now we're reaching that point with football. You're right. A bunch of nerds with a notebook who think their opinion of Bill Belichick is more important than honestly telling the history and the Hall of Fame of football. I think Jason Cole is going to be on his morning show. He's got Howard Balzer, who's another Hall of Fame voter. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't even make sense to me. Bothers me. I'd love to hear Jason Cole too. I wish he was coming on but he's not. It's confirmed Jason Cole voted for Bill. There is a list going around of confirmed names who voted for Bill. It's a major black guy. It's a major black guy. I hate when people like this try and get in the way. Like, dude, we're not the story. I talk to you every day. My story is that I have a great community and a business with you. But I'm well aware that I'm not the story. We cover the story. Bill Belichick is the story. Tom Brady is the story. Jalen Hurts is the story. Here's Francis. They freaking shoot. All right, Francis. All right, I'm out of here, guys. Good show today. Appreciate all you guys being here, as always. Don't forget to hit the like button. Weird spot. We'll see what happens with Schefter, too. I know he just got off that and started talking about the Hall of Fame, but weird spot with Schefter. I mean, I don't know what it's going to be. We'll find out. But so they're putting up a list of these names on voting. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out. Are we supposed to get another storm this weekend? Yeah, it's been so cold this week. The snow is like frozen into ice, and it just doesn't come up. 17 degrees out right now. Are we supposed to get a storm? I don't know, man. I'm looking at the radar. Who knows? All right, guys. Love all you guys. Appreciate it. Hit the like button, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
EAGLES. Eagles.